Hello, everyone. Welcome back to season 9 of Vulnerability Time. It's so great to be here for another season. Folks, remember to share the podcast, subscribe, follow the podcast. You never know whose life you're going to heal or change by just simply sharing the podcast. We're all in this together. We're all worthy and deserving of healing and deserving of love. So love someone today, including yourself, even if it's hard, even if you don't feel like it. Also, if you want some more healing, go and check out my books on Amazon. One's an interactive journal notebook, and you can interact with it. It's very self-awareness and to learn yourself and others if you want to learn more about yourself. The other one's a really neat poetry book that I wrote some years back. So all that can be found in the episode description below. And with that being said, this is another episode of Vulnerability Time. I am your host and published author, Josias Abriel. Alrighty, folks, we love a pre-recorded intro. So today, we have Mila. Mila, hello, welcome to the Vulnerability Time podcast.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you for being here. So, folks, today what we'll be talking about with Mila is the difficulties of being vulnerable, and her book. But before we get into that, Mila, let's get to know you a little bit. What's any credentials that you have, any work that you have out, what do you do? Is that a fireman shirt on?
Yeah, it's firefighter shirt. We have an event tonight, so I said rather than change 8 times, I'll just put it on and hope I don't sweat too much or get it dirty. But yes, a volunteer firefighter. I have a degree in journalism, which made writing a book a little bit easier. Yes and no, I guess. I guess we can dive into that. But yeah, I've not had a single straightforward career path. I never graduated university and then just stuck with the same thing. I've tried a lot of different stuff. It all kind of relates to different things, but there's marketing, there's public relations, there's graphic design, owning my own businesses. I guess I'm on my second one now. So just, yeah, it's fun.
Exactly. Because who says we have to just be in one thing
No
for
one.
the rest of our life? Exactly.
I think
Yes.
our parents were very much like that. Like
Yeah,
my
that's
dad
what they were
did,
taught.
my dad did 2 jobs. My husband, same thing. Like he's worked for the same company since even before he graduated. He's changed roles a few times, but yeah, like my cousin, I went to my cousin's house this past weekend, and her daughter is just kind of starting out into adulthood and can't quite, you know, has had a hard time figuring out what she wants to do. And she said, I use you as an example sometimes with her because she went to one university and it wasn't for her, and then she switched to something else and that wasn't for her. And I said, it's fine. Like, who says you have to decide what you want to do at 18, 20, 22? Like, there's a difference between a lack of commitment and not giving yourself a chance.
Right.
But there's also the, okay, you know what, I've done this, it's brought me great joy. Maybe it doesn't give me great joy anymore, so I'm gonna
Mhm.
see what else does bring me joy and what
Right.
makes me feel alive.
Yes, I
Hmm.
love that. Exactly, because it was taught to me, even in high school when they were, encouraging people to, apply for majors and stuff like that, apply for colleges and universities and get your majors and stuff like that. And yeah, it was a very, you know, you got to know what you want to do for the rest of your life by 18. And that just never sat right with me. And then someone finally said, who says that? Who actually said that? Like, what that is that even true? Is that no, you don't. You could be multiple things. You can be whatever you want to be. If you want to do this, you could do this. If you want to do that, you can do that. If you want to do this year, and then 2 years later do something else, do it.
And I think it's learning to not to care so much what people think.
Yes.
Right? Because you might think, like,
Mhm.
when I sold my bit, I had a business for 8 years. I was a naturopath and nutritionist, and I enjoyed it. I did very well with it. But I was like, oh my gosh, like, what are people going to think? Did they think that we just shut down because of COVID, that we lost clients? did they think that, what's Mila gonna do now? Is she
Mhm.
just gonna stay home? Like, and I had a very, very hard time just coming off of that and not working for a little bit. I had a very, very hard time, but that's also the time that I was actually grounded enough and relaxed enough that the idea for the book did come to me. So
Mhm.
I've had a lot of discussions with a friend of mine who has gone through the same thing, and she still struggles with, I'm not working. Like, what are people going to think? It's like, who cares? We're 40 years old now. Like, we don't have to care so much what people think.
Yeah. You're 40, you do not look it.
Oh, thank you.
You
Yeah,
look
just turned 40.
yes.
Yeah.
Ooh,
It's the coastal genes. It's the salt water.
gotcha, gotcha, gotcha. Because honestly, you're not like 40. I thought you were like 30.
Well,
I was
thanks. I
thinking
love you
30,
very much for
31.
saying that.
Yes, yes. Well, we love it. We love the youthful looks. Um, okay, Mila. So you mentioned your book. Tell us a little bit about your book. So I have a question.
Oh,
Does your book correlate with the difficulties of being vulnerable, or is that two separate things?
very much
Okay,
so. Yeah, and I
great.
think I think that the book itself was me being very vulnerable,
Mhm,
but in a more subdued way. I've never been able to be vulnerable. I don't like sharing emotions,
mhm,
um, whether happiness or sadness. I tend to hold myself back, and I think, unfortunately, now that that's just a part of my personality, I'm afraid of being too loud. I'm afraid of being too much. I'm afraid of being too whatever, too up, too down. So I think now I'm more relaxed about it. That if I do cry, and it's not a big deal, but
mhm.
oh my gosh, it has taken me such a long time to get there, and it's still something that I'm not comfortable with. And I think it's something that a lot of us are not comfortable
Right,
with because I don't feel safe around everyone
right,
to just be that way or
right,
be myself. I don't give that part of myself to just anyone.
right, right. No, that's completely, completely understandable. Um, I too, like, as well, like, long time ago, like, I know I'm hosting a show called Vulnerability Time, but vulnerability was growing up, it was never my strong suit. It was something that I didn't like the feeling of it. I had to do it multiple times, and because the times in the household that I was in, the times that I showed vulnerability, it was invalidated, rejected, um, you know, in a way criminalized,
Mhm.
like it's like a crime to be vulnerable, and then I was taught the whole crying is weakness when really not that's not based on psychology, because psychology says humans are actually supposed to cry, and if we hold it in, we it does long-term damage to us. And so um yeah, I mean, I learned all that like way after, but growing up I was never taught that though. I was just never taught that. And so like what I was shown was that I wasn't safe when I was vulnerable.
Yep, 100%.
Mhm.
And I wonder if it was our generation. I know that I'm probably quite a bit older than you, but I wonder if it was that generation of, because you look at now, like my son's generation, he's 11. I tell him all the time, like I still hear sometimes older people in our family say like, "Oh, well, boys don't cry," and I'll pull him aside. And I'm like, "FYI, if you need to cry, you can. Like
Aw.
it's not a big deal." And he's not a big crier because he's such a happy kid. But
Mhm.
if he gets hurt or he's not feeling well or someone really makes him angry, I'm like, "Yeah, let it out, man. Like
Yeah.
I'd be mad too." So it was just something I think that was never taught. And then having a sister that does have a disability, I think for me it was amped up because she was very much vulnerable in a very
Mhm.
obvious way, and she did not hold back. When she was scared, when she was sad, when she was angry, she let it out. So that always made me uncomfortable. So I tried to not be that way,
Yeah.
one for myself, but also for her and for my parents, to
Mhm.
say, you know what, they've got enough going on. I'm just going to be the strong one and I'm going to try to hold all of this together. And I mean, it's made me an extremely independent, very strong willed, strong minded person. So I'm very thankful for that. But I'm learning to kind of tune it down a little bit or tone it down and just be like, okay, I don't have to do this with everyone.
Yeah.
But if I have something that's upsetting, I'll come home and I'll just be like, all right, I need some hot tub time with my husband and I need to just let it out and we're good to go.
Yes. So does having someone, like for example like your husband, has that helped you be vulnerable?
Yes and no. He is
Mhm.
extremely, I want to say this in a nice way. He's very neutral.
Mhm.
But it's not, I've learned and he's learned that that's not a bad thing.
Right.
But I also fear for him that has he been taught that's also a mask that he's putting on that maybe he doesn't know how or he doesn't want to. But I
Mhm.
also just think that he's a very easygoing, not much gets to him. So he doesn't have those highs and lows that
Yeah.
maybe I might feel. People might not know that I feel those, but I do. I'm just quite good a lot of times at hiding them.
Right, right. Did you feel so you mentioned that back then vulnerability not really something, that um how do I say that you did, but now, things are a little different, but it's still difficult at times, even me, like it's still like can be difficult at times depending on the situation. Like yesterday I was in a meeting yesterday and everyone was sharing and I was struggling to raise my hand and share. And that's something I didn't think I would ever do, but like it's not something that I think I would ever, be scared to share, but it was the situation that made me like scared to share. And so I forced myself because I had to recognize I was like, okay, intellectually I'm able to see I'm in a safe place. All right. So it's like the only one being afraid here is me, like because I had to discern, is this fear coming from myself or is it coming from the environment, because the environment's not safe. And so I was like, I'm just gonna do my best. I'm just gonna do. So what I did, I just told them I'm not okay. That's all. I told them I was like, I'm afraid to be vulnerable. I'm not okay. I'm very hurt and upset. And I sound okay, but I'm struggling to show my emotion. So the best that I can do is just say it verbally. And I was like, I'm afraid that if I share, I'll trigger myself into something worse, into like a relapse. And I don't want
Mhm.
that. So I was like, I'll probably maybe just share tomorrow. But for today, just for today, this is my 100%. This is the best that I can do.
Right, and I think that's very well articulated that we don't and I think too there's a balance. We can share if we want to with
Mhm.
maybe the right group or the right people, but it
Right.
doesn't mean that we have to because
Right.
sometimes that takes energy too, right?
Yeah.
It's to say, okay, yeah, I don't really want to get into this because I have
Mhm.
to expend this energy to explain it. So
Yeah.
just going to give you, the surface toppings of what's maybe bothering me or why how I'm feeling, but that's all you're getting today.
Right, exactly, exactly. And sometimes, like, I remember back then, like, my 100% looked like today's 2%, but both were equally valid, equally important. And looking back, I'm equally proud of myself, because at first my vulnerability started with literally, I would write on pieces of paper, like, I would just rip off a piece of paper and write, I'm depressed or I'm suicidal, and I would go to the store and I just put it under an item and I just leave. That was my way of getting it out into a public, because that to me that was safe. That
Hmm.
was me. Basically, I started little by little. I started little by little before I could even open up. Like I wrote
Hmm.
down on a note I was sexually abused.
Right.
I wrote that on a note and I just went to Kroger. I don't know if where you're at, if y'all have Kroger.
No, no, we're in Canada, but I don't know if
Oh, I
yeah.
love Canada. Don't get me started. I love Canada. I was actually in the process of being a dual citizen, but then COVID happened and that just ruined all of my plans. I was in the process of going to the University of BC,
No
but
way.
COVID ruined the plans because around this time it was 2020, so it ruined everything.
No, I'm in the Maritimes. So I grew up in Nova Scotia and now I live in New Brunswick. So it's like bordering Maine.
Nice.
Hmm.
Nice. So beautiful over there. Canada's beautiful, everyone. Oh, guess who is. So, this podcast is heard in 53 countries, and guess who is in the top three? Canada.
I was going to say Canada, US, and England or the UK.
Yes. How did you
Yeah.
know? How'd you know?
Just a wild guess.
Yeah, that's literally. Yes, that's actually top. What? That is so cool. How'd you guess
It's
that? That's really
awesome.
nice. But, yes. So. It started in that, but what I got from it were, especially looking back now in hindsight, was the principles of like this is clearly safe. To me at that time, it was safe. I was like, I'm putting this at the back of the shelf under an item. They're probably, if someone sees it, they're gonna think it's trash and just throw it away. They're not even gonna see that maybe there's something written in it. But it was just, I got it out.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
you clear those outside layers, right?
yes,
Like
little by
almost like
little.
peeling back an onion that the prize or the big thing is in the middle, but you've got to peel back those layers that you've
Yeah,
added over your life of
yeah,
protection and safety and all those things that
yeah.
eh, but being safe is hard or feeling safe is hard
It's
because
hard.
when you share something like you've shared so personal and so deep and so traumatizing and like how how can you ever trust that someone's going to get it or someone's going to be there for you to say this happened to me and if you don't get the reaction or the support or the right the care that you need it's almost like living it twice.
Yeah. And it can make you want to like seclude and isolate and just keep it in
Yeah.
and kind of like prove my fears right.
Yeah.
Cuz like I remember when I told my mother um you know the way she handled and did not handle it. It created what's called like the mother betrayal.
Hmm.
Um but it made me feel so ashamed that I even spoke up. It made me think, was it just better to just not speak at all and keep it all in? Um, and so, and it wasn't just to that situation though. Like that feeling, it seeped into other places in my life and all around the whole vulnerability just aspect. For the longest, I was just like, no, I'm not going to. Um, but luckily, thankfully, I went to like therapy and stuff like that, and they were just very validating, and that helped me, to validate myself. And they were like, there was also friends that I was like really close with that I kind of like shared with. So I had to be taught that I had to be taught the safety because it
Hmm.
wasn't something was at least for me, it wasn't something that was natural. It wasn't something that was given. It was something that I had to learn. But yeah, I had to learn because I was taught not safety. I was taught chaos and things like that. I was taught survival,
Yeah.
you know, as well. And so I wanted to know because I love what you're talking about and I also want to hear more about your book too. But we'll get to that. Um but I love when we had our pre-meeting. I love that, um we picked the topic, you picked the topic of the difficulties of being vulnerable because that is something that out of, my own privilege, I don't talk about as much. I talk about it as very where I'm at now in my vulnerability, as if it's so easy, as if it's always been easy. And I can forget sometimes that
Right.
where I started it was so difficult to where I gave up multiple times on being vulnerable. And when I first started back up, it was leaving the notes and then therapy. But it was
Right.
leaving little notes, like small pieces of paper. And sometimes I would, not all the time, but sometimes I would make sure someone couldn't read the handwriting. Um, but to show my mind and show myself that I have the power to speak,
And to
that
get it
was
out.
huge. Yes. So I
Yeah.
wanted to hear more about, so you mentioned a little bit about your journey of how, like, at first, you just didn't want to show it, growing up. You mentioned with your sister and everything, and because your family and things like that, you mentioned. And then you mentioned now, that um things are a little different, but it's still not always easy. Can you tell us more about that journey, what that looks like for you? What's so difficult?
Yeah. So I think with Sarah, in the book, her name is Sadie, because it's a book on it's fiction. But I think with Sarah, we're only 18 months apart, so I was never really truly the only child, just for a year and a half.
Mhm.
So I think
Right.
with her, there was always this. I put way too much pressure on myself to be someone for her, to almost be a protector, to kind of be her safe place. That if she was going down the stairs, I would take a hold of her sweater to make sure that she didn't fall because she walks with crutches. If we were at someone's house and all the kids were laughing, I'd remind her and be like, "Oh, Sarah, like don't laugh so loud. You might pee your pants," because I didn't want her to feel embarrassed.
Right,
And
right.
even when it comes to that, like I don't like a lot of attention. So the whole book writing promotion has been tricky in that way because it is vulnerable, right? Because it's almost like here I am sharing my story, even though it's fictionalized. A lot of it's true. Oh dear heavens! Stop licking your paws, please. Um,
Yes. Her dog,
so
everyone.
a poor dog. Yes, he's got some itchy paws. But yeah, it was. I said I knew in my heart that this book would resonate with other people, not just people that had a sibling with disabilities, but just anyone that
Mhm,
maybe has felt that they can't say things, that
mhm,
they might feel unseen or unheard. And I was afraid because I didn't want to write this as a pity party book either. I just wanted to share my story, her story, and my parents' story within the book, which there is a device in the book that allows me to do that. So yeah, it was just the whole what if I write this and people read it and say like this is crap, or this is why did you even write this? It's she's the one that's important, not you.
mhm,
Which a lot of times I felt. So yeah, there's a certain when someone's vulnerabilities are loud and in your face and very obvious, like Sarah's. She needed different things than I did. So I
mhm,
learned over time, and again, I wonder too, like how much of this is just my personality and how much it is learned behavior. That I said, how much of this is actually me? But I do feel more comfortable in a helping role. Which is why I'm a firefighter. I do feel more comfortable in that setting. I don't like to seem weak. I don't like to seem vulnerable. I don't like to seem needy.
mhm.
So I do everything in my power to not be that way.
Yeah, yeah. Gotcha, gotcha. So what is this, and that's in the book, what is the book called? Like, what's the title of the book? And where
It's
can we
called
find it?
It's on Amazon. It's called Finding Lady Baltimore. And the book, people say, what the heck is that about? And it's not really a spoiler because there is a suitcase on the book cover. So I grew up on the coast and I said, what if I could find, fictionally, if I could find a device or something that allowed me to see other people's perspective through it?
Mm,
So as the book progresses, I find different things, and finding those things allows me to see my own perspective as a child from a 17-year-old, because I wrote the book when I was like the protagonist, who is me, is 17. So there's things that happened when I was younger that I am able to see through older eyes, and it gives me a different perspective. I'm able to see what being my sister is like, which was the main idea of the book anyway, because I've always wondered, what is being her like? What goes on in her head? Because she's not always able to communicate if something is bothering her, if she's not feeling well, if
right,
she doesn't
right.
feel comfortable around something. So I had to fictionalize her character just a little bit because I wasn't able to ask her those questions as I was writing the book.
Mhm.
So I said, what are some things that I've noticed that she struggles with that are not meant for her? Like maybe it's an accessible washroom that wasn't available when she needed it,
Right, right.
a ramp that maybe to get into a building wasn't there. So things that I think a sibling or a family member or someone who knows someone with a disability is just so trained to look out for. It was to teach people those things too. And I mean, I'm not
Mhm,
perfect. I have used a disabled washing room or a washing room, a stall in the washroom once or twice. But I really make sure that it's like, okay, there's no one waiting, there's no one around that looks like they might need this, and I do my business and I'm out. But I've learned to really not do that anymore unless it's an absolute necessity. Because
mhm,
people that have what my sister has or a disability like that, they can't always control the muscles in their bodies, including
mhm,
their bladder and their bowels. So when
mhm,
they have to go, they have to go.
mhm,
So it kind of like irks me a little bit now that I know what I know.
mhm,
When I see people using those stalls for, they shouldn't have the changing table for babies in that one. They should have it outside or a separate
mhm.
one. So just little things like that that I've
Yeah.
come to pay attention to.
Hey, and what so folks, the link to Mila's book will be in the episode description below so that y'all can go check it out. But two questions. So Finding Lady Baltimore, where did that title come from? That's a cool
So
title.
I've struggled with answering this because I don't want to give anything away.
Oh, okay, gotcha. We don't have to answer it.
But yes, it's I'll just say this. Originally, the title of the book was going to be called "A Blue Suitcase," which snooze. So it has changed. It has with the guidance of my editors, we kind of brainstormed, and I was like, "What about this?" And they were like, "Yeah, Finding Lady Baltimore is way better." Which, when you read the book, it'll all make sense.
Mm, gotcha, gotcha. So, gotta read the book to get at it. Okay, gotcha, gotcha. Oh, I love a little finding out a little mystery. Okay, I have a question. So, where when it comes to like the difficulties being vulnerable, I know that society can play a part in that. And I'm folks, I don't know, like, I'm not an expert in this just yet. I am getting my PhD in sociology, my doctorate in sociology, so I'm part of that comes with learning how societies and systems affect, society and how they affect each other and all that good stuff. But I know that different, countries can have different, you know, um, their own society, own ways, like for example, one country could just be naturally or more accepting of something, and then another country is just like, oh no, 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 no.
Right.
Now I've heard nothing of good things about Canada. Canada's known as a very, very, very nice country, a very accepting country. And this is just what I've heard. Um, um, I've heard even currently, like people are saying that they are considering moving to Canada because of there's someone in office right now.
Because
I'm
of
just
everything.
right. So I'm gonna, yeah, y'all know who I'm talking about. But yes. So how did you notice if there is because I don't know much about Canada society. I don't. I know about America. I live here in America, and I know that like it was very taught here of you know growing up. Things are different now, but not for everyone, but overall things are more talked about now than they were
Right.
back then. And I know a lot of um here what's called the American dream, right? That's what our parents here in America were raised on. And part of that American dream means male in his male role, female in her female role. Forget about people who were intersex, who were
Right.
born both or born neither. Folks, and I'm not talking about a transition. I'm saying literally out of the womb, born both or born neither. Like
Right.
that is actually that millions of people, folks, millions of people. I'm one of them. So it's just like what in a part of that male role is where we develop that term toxic masculinity.
Hmm.
And then I learned recently, I sat and because sometimes I like to sit in deep thought, more it's mostly beneficial, but it has its cons. But I like to sit in deep thought, and I thought about it. I was like, but wait, us coining the term, and there's a point, there's a reason I'm saying all this. Coining the term toxic masculinity, you know, that's just under the assumption that it's just exclusively men. I was just like, but what about those who are born intersex or born or assigned female at birth, whose fathers or families taught them aspects of toxic masculinity? Now they embody it. So, part of that toxic masculinity is the whole you cry, you can't cry. You just can't cry. It's a sign of weakness. And so we were taught that. And I understand that back then that, you know, our parents back then didn't, have the knowledge and the, the psychology that was, that we have now, and the conversation now is bigger than it was back then. So I completely am recognizing that. There's no shame at all. I'm just saying like I'm just curious of Canada's society, was it similar or not at all? What did that look like? What did the society how did society affect vulnerability, if anything, if it did?
Well, first of all, to your comments, I think a lot of that comes from fear.
Mm,
That it's like I don't want to see you cry because it makes me uncomfortable,
mm,
right? And
right.
I think it makes people fearful, so that's why they say don't cry. It's like it's
Mm,
not that you're not allowed to. It's just
right, right.
and I'm not saying me personally, but a lot of people they might
Mm,
say, "Oh, don't do that because I don't know what to do when you do that,"
that's a
right?
good point. Right, right.
So for us, growing up in the Maritimes, I think there it is a lot different than maybe British Columbia or Ontario. Like we're
Mm,
also down to earth. We're also friendly, like for the most part. But yeah, it's so the whole toxic masculinity or toxic femininity thing. I think it can go both ways,
mm-hmm.
and I think that's
Right,
I
right.
I'm in a role now, especially with firefighting, that I've always been that kind of I like to say it like it is. I'm a bit more tomboy. I like to wear just t-shirts and athletic shorts, but I also like to wear dresses. So you can do both. You can be both, but that's where I feel the most comfortable is oftentimes in a more masculine role. I have owned a business. I have owned two businesses. I do like firefighting. I like physical labor. I like those things, but I'm also my son tells me I'm also a fantastic mom. I can be very nurturing. I can be very, um, sweet and quiet. And so I don't think you have to fit into one or two
Exactly.
or even three boxes. You can say,
Right.
you know what, I enjoy this aspect of this, but I
Mm-hmm.
also enjoy this aspect of this. And
Yes.
that is 100% okay. Stop it.
Yes.
Enough.
I love that you said that. Yes, because I know like at least here in I society, is definitely taught, you have to fit in boxes. Discard the
And
human, fit in the
yes,
box.
and fit in the box that I want you to fit in based
Mhm.
on my comfort level,
Right.
right?
Exactly.
And but on the flip side of your question earlier, I think where I'm from in the Maritimes, yes,
Mhm.
we are very down to earth and very friendly, but it's smaller towns, and I think sometimes small towns can be very
Mhm.
close-minded, can be very set in their ways.
Mhm.
Whereas if you go to a bigger city or a bigger
Like
province,
Tirana.
Tirana, you might not know everyone,
Mhm.
so you can be more yourself in
Mhm.
those places. And I'll notice that too. Sometimes I'll get kind of tired of being around the same people. Sometimes if I need a break, I'll go somewhere people don't know me.
Right. Right.
Right? My family and I will go to a baseball game in Toronto, or we'll go to Halifax for a couple nights and just be like, like we can just be here and not feel like we have to say hi to everyone in the street. And,
Yeah, yeah,
you know,
yeah. Yes. I love that. I love that you mentioned that. And because yeah, I remember one time at my old job. Oh, I missed that job. It was a great job. We did a training, and I was the leader of that training. And basically, we gave out me and my co-partner, co-trainer, whatever you call it. Um, we gave all of our coworkers, slips at the training, and one side of the slip was masculine things and the other side was feminine things. And we're like, but we didn't label it masculine, feminine. We just said check off which boxes. You can check off all or none or whatever. Check off which boxes you see yourself in. And everyone, it doesn't matter if they were assigned male at birth, assigned female at birth. I don't think we had any intersex. Um, but um, whether you were assigned male at birth or whether you were assigned female at birth, everyone had both masculine and feminine traits.
yeah,
And I was just like, exactly, I think humans can be both or whatever they want, and I was just like, who says that you have to deny the humanity? Just to be. I remember I wrote in my poetry book one time. I said I was taught be a man, be a man, be a man, be everything but human. And so how I look at the box is I look at this is how I kind of give it some imagery is I look at the silhouette, and it could be whatever silhouette the person is. My I was raised and told I was male. So we're just going to use that silhouette. Okay.
okay,
So think of the average height of a male. I know every country has different average heights. I believe North America's average height is like for a male is 5'10", right? 5'10".
okay, okay.
I believe so. Yeah, we're kind of all the same. Mexico, Canada, and the U.S. I believe our average height. I could be wrong, but I believe I saw that in a peer-reviewed article before. So if I'm wrong, whatever. But we get the picture. So picture a 5'11" silhouette of a male, right? Um, and then picture a box. And I like to picture an Amazon box. Okay, because I order it way too much, and
Same.
yeah, I try not to support, but it's so convenient, and it's just, oh, I just love it. So I imagine that Amazon box as whatever box your society or your environment is wanting to put you in. A 5'11" human cannot fit in that box. So how do you fit in the box? Okay, so you cut off some limbs. You cut off your legs, you cut off some toes. Oh, that's not enough. Your head is still hanging out. Okay, cut off the head. And so now you're able to fit in the box, right? And then close the box up, right? And there, you fit in society's box, but where's the human?
You cut off so many parts of yourself. You're not human
Exactly.
anymore.
Exactly. And so I see the box as society telling us what we should be and not allowing us to be what we could be.
But isn't it freeing when you get to the point that you don't feel that way anymore and you're just like,
Exactly.
this is me, right?
Right.
I like to cuss sometimes. I like
Yeah.
to, you know, wear bunker gear and go into burning
Yes.
buildings and be, is that the feminine thing to do?
Mhm.
No, but I'm at the point now that I really don't care.
Exactly. I love that, like embodying the human, and it definitely could be like for me, it was a journey. It's especially when, you're having to unlearn,
Mm,
the box, I didn't fit well in the box, but I tried to. Um, so, throughout life, I've been unlearning the box. And so I just think that that's so beautiful, embracing the human, because it's like, yeah, like once my arms and legs and all that, like once that was not in the box, now I can't move because I was just a torso in there, but someone
right.
else could move it. someone else could move it, but reclaiming the arms, reclaiming the legs, reclaiming the head. I'm able to do things that I could do, things that I want to do. If my hands want to do gardening and my hands want to do kickboxing, I'm gonna do that. I have never gardened, but I think it's cool. It's something that I will do, folks. But kickboxing, I do. I also like to get my nails painted sometimes. I like to get my nails done. I hadn't had it done in a while, but I like to get my nails painted. I like to put on boxing gloves as well.
And you can do both. You can have the nail polish under the boxing gloves.
Exactly.
But I love how you use the term unlearning. I use that all the time because
Yeah.
I think that's maybe for the first half of our lives or the first 20 years, we're living with our parents, well, maybe 18. But we learn things from them, we learn things from our peers, and then we kind of go out on our own and we get to unlearn those things. And I for me, that happened when I became a mother. When Bennett was born,
Oh, beautiful.
I had to unlearn a lot of those
Mhm.
patterns and those ways of being. And for us, it was I was so used to monitoring my sister, what she needed, what she
Yeah.
wanted, how comfortable she was. And then I had to realize when my son became older, I said, he has a voice. He can tell me if something is bothering him. He can tell me if he's not feeling well. I don't always have to be on him to say, you're coughing. Does that mean you're getting sick? It's cold. Like, are you cold? Are you uncomfortable? Like, I had to really unlearn doing that, and it was exhausting to monitor.
Yeah.
It translated to a lot of different social situations, and I did it with everyone. That
Yeah.
now I'm like, okay, like these people can tell me, like I don't have to be their keeper, right?
Right.
It's yeah, unlearning. I love that
Mhm.
term.
Yes, I love that. Unlearning, I love that term as well. Something that I want to point out, Mila, before we wrap up, I want to first off applaud and honor you. The way you've articulated things have been so graceful. Sometimes when I articulate things about how society has just kind of lied to me, and especially like my parents have lied to me, who they were also lied to by society and things like that. It was just normal back then for them, so no
Hmm.
shame. But sometimes I worry that my biases may come off, and or unconscious biases, or my biases may change my tone into something shameful, as if I'm trying to shame somebody out there. Shame males out there, not those that were born female or intersex, but to shame males out there, because that's where my trauma came from. That's where
Hmm.
a lot of the limiting beliefs that I learned came from. And not saying all men, but that was just my observations, my experience, that it just so happened to come from those that were male. That's just
Right.
me. That's just me. I'm sure for other people it could be different. It could be both. It could be everyone. But for me, that was just my journey. That's what my journey looked like. So yeah. So sometimes I have to catch myself, and sometimes I feel like maybe I didn't catch myself. If I'm coming off unintentionally shameful. So hearing how you verbalize things, it's so graceful, and I just want you to know I recognize it and I honor it, and it's very, 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 very beautiful. I
Thank you.
apologize out there if I came off anywhere shameful. That is not the intention, but I do uh, understand and recognize that I mean, unconscious biases are a real thing, and we don't even know it. We just don't
Yeah.
know it. Sometimes it'll just happen. So I that's the most awareness I can do when it comes to unconscious biases, because like yeah, so
But there's such a thing as, there's people out there that say, okay, this is my way of thinking, and it's the only way that's right.
mm,
Right. And that's not what you're doing. That's not, I think, what most people are. Well, some people are, but I think and I think that was a big part of the book too, was I always maybe was really hard on my parents, not realizing that they were learning as they were going, and they were still growing and gathering
Mhm.
information. And just because they were parents didn't mean that they knew everything. And I think I held them to such high standards when I was growing up
Mhm.
that when I became a parent, I was like, oh shit, like, yeah, parenting's hard. Like you're trying to still be an individual and you're still trying to have some sort of freedom to be yourself, but you're also responsible for this human life, maybe sometimes more than one at once. So it really allowed me to writing this book really allowed me to kind of touch on what you just said, right? It's seeing those different perspectives and trying my best to understand why people are the way they are and why they act certain ways and why they might hide parts of themselves or put on certain masks, that because they don't want to be vulnerable because they've been taught that it's not allowed.
Yeah.
And just, if you use the whole what was the thing that you use with like the male, like the male
The
like be a
box?
like be a man,
Oh,
like
be a man, be
a
everything but
male
human.
role,
Oh,
right?
oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, yeah.
So it's like, okay, I might be a female that enjoys firefighting and driving old trucks and
Mhm.
listening to country music, and but I also, there's men out there that like to garden and get pedicures and manicures, and you can have both male and feminine, uh not just features but ways of doing things. So I
Yeah.
think, yeah, the biggest takeaway would be to stop putting us in boxes, society.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
just we can be this and that, or that or that, or we
Yeah.
can take things from this column and put them in this column, and just, yeah, it's hard to
Yeah.
be yourself, but it's very brave to be yourself.
Yes. Yes, exactly. And it's a process and it takes time and it takes
Hmm.
unlearning. And I love that. Yes, folks, if you're in that journey, be graceful to yourself. I've had times where I was a little hard on myself. So folks, be graceful to yourself. You're doing the best you can, and it's okay if 100% today looks like 2% tomorrow and vice versa. It's
Because it's
all
not
equally
linear. it's not
exactly,
it's
it's
not
not
linear.
linear. Exactly. So, applaud yourself through it all because trying is also doing. And if you're trying, hey, that's amazing. Um, okay, Mila. Well, thank you so much. Folks, remember to check out Mila's book in the episode description below. It will be in the episode description below, and any other links that Mila sends me will be in the episode description below. So go ahead and check it out, folks. We love to support over here. And thank you so much again, Mila, for being on the show. Folks, tell yourself that you are enough. Tell yourself you are enough. I like to leave with that little challenge. Tell yourself you are enough, even if you don't believe it, even if you don't feel it, still tell yourself it because you are worth it. So, alrighty. Bye, folks. See y'all next episode for whatever that will be.